According to Scott Adams' Dilbert Principle, the least competent people get promoted into management in order to reduce the amount of harm they can do in an organization. This is a somewhat cynical variant of the Peter Principle, which says that people are promoted because of their competence. In this video, I'm going to explain the idea behind the Peter Principle, why it matters, and what we can do about it. Hey, how's it going? This is Scruffy Leadership, a YouTube channel about management and leadership. My name's Ben, and I've been a leader and a manager in the tech industry for over 25 years. The Peter Principle was first described in a book by Lawrence Peter in the late 1960s. The idea is really simple. People who are good at their job tend to get promoted, and eventually they end up in a role which they're not good at, meaning they won't get promoted again. In other words, according to the principle, everyone ends up in a job they can't do. There have been some studies that have shown this principle in operation, but of course it's not entirely accurate. One way, though, in which I see it happen all the time is in regards to management. There's this sense that anyone smart can be a manager, and so companies promote a good individual contributor into a management role and expect them to do well in it. Often, this new manager gets very little training or even no training at all. I suspect people either think it's something you can't teach or that it's just so obvious you don't need to teach it, but neither of those is true. The reality is that good management can be taught, and it's not obvious. It's not just about doing the right thing, and it's certainly not just about knowing how to do the job of the people you manage. Management and leadership are areas in which everyone can be learning all the time. Some of that learning can happen on the job, of course, and some of it can come from observing both good and bad leaders. But a lot of the principles that make someone a good manager can be learned. The other point, though, is that even though good management can be learned, not everyone really wants to learn it. In cases where someone is promoted into being a manager, management might not be what they really want to do. It might not be something they're really capable of being good at. Or often they do want to do it, but for the wrong reasons. In some cases, it happens the other way around from the Peter Principle. People take on management in order to prove themselves so that they can get promoted. In both cases, the end result can be the same, someone who's managing without really being properly motivated to do so. To be clear, I'd say that good motivations for being a manager are that you like helping people grow, you like supporting other people and enabling them, you like dealing with thorny people-related problems, and you're okay with dealing with really tough ones in which there might not be a solution that pleases everyone. If you're going into management for those kinds of reasons, that's great. In the long run, the Peter Principle won't apply to you because you'll likely be motivated to seek out the knowledge you need to be the best manager you can be. But unless you're given adequate training, you likely will find yourself being a much less good manager than you'd like in the early days. And even if you've had great training, you probably will struggle from time to time as well. And that's why having a good mentor is also essential. You can think of a mentor as a source of individual moments of training that you can call on when you need them. But let's come back to the Peter Principle. One way it can be avoided is to do what many tech companies do nowadays, which is to promote people only once they've consistently proven that they can do the new job for a reasonable period of time, like 6 or 12 months. So promotion then becomes not the allocation of new responsibilities, but a recognition of how someone has already started to work. This is great, but it doesn't help with management, since management is more of a binary thing. You're either a manager or you're not. And this is different from leadership. Everyone's a leader in one way or another. It's a spectrum. Management is more black and white. And that means there isn't a way to prove you're good at management without actually becoming a manager. And that means that when an organization makes someone a manager, they're always taking a risk. That person may turn out to be incapable of becoming a good manager. It's also a risk for the person themselves. It may turn out that they hate management, regardless of whether they're good at it or not. So that means two things. First, training is essential, ideally starting before the person becomes a manager. But second, it should be okay for someone to stop being a manager. It should be okay for an organization to help an individual see that they're not suited to management, but it should also be okay for a manager to decide they want to stop being a manager. I think this is often made hard, not necessarily by formal processes and rules, but by the sense that people have that if they stop being a manager, they're taking an embarrassing step backwards. So companies should really do what they can, not to make it a common occurrence necessarily, but to make it acceptable and not embarrassing for a manager to reduce how many reports they have or to stop managing entirely. Management just isn't for everyone. So to summarize, 1, don't go into management for the wrong reasons. 2, if you do become a manager, make sure you get good training. 3, if you are a manager or a leader or you want to become one, now is never too early to find a mentor, someone that's not closely connected to your work that can give you honest, wise, and objective feedback. And 4, if you're a manager, don't promote someone into a role you don't feel confident they can do. Ideally, organizations should promote people once they've already proven they can do the job. A lot of aspects of the way many companies run creates incentives for people to become managers that probably shouldn't be managers. This means there are way too many people that became managers for the wrong reasons. To hear more of my thoughts on this subject, check out the video that's on screen now. And if you have thoughts or questions about the subject of this video, why not let me know about them in the comments below? And the same goes if you have any ideas for subjects you'd like to see me cover in future videos. Bye. See you soon.